everyone. This is Dr. Amig, your friendly rheumatologist from UnabridgedMD. Today, I have the pleasure of replaying an episode that I recorded with Dr. Tolulope Olabintan, who is a primary care physician and has a podcast of her own. I loved her questions so much that I thought that I would share with you the episode where I was a guest talking about gout. So you can now learn all about gout and have very specific ways to improve your health if you do have gout. All right, and as usual, if you are looking for a rheumatologist or if you know someone who's looking for a rheumatologist in the Denver or Colorado area, please think of us. We are currently accepting new patients. Have a wonderful day and enjoy. Bye.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you are watching this Facebook Live. This is the voice and the face of Dr. Tolulope Olabintan of Livingspring Family Medical Center here in the awesome city of Mansfield, Texas. And we're here again today discussing topics that help to improve our quality and quantity of life because we help our patients live long and well. And today we'll be talking about gout. And we'll be doing that with the amazing Dr. DipABLM. Nice to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Now, I already mentioned your name. And for those who are watching live, please hashtag live. And for those of you who watch a replay, hashtag replay. Feel free to share. Remember, sharing is caring. But Doc, I'm going to ask you, please, for those who are watching, kindly introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So I'm Dr. Isabelle Amig. I'm a rheumatologist. I trained both in France, in Paris, and then I did it all again in New York City at Columbia University. I did my fellowship, and I'm now based in Denver, Colorado, beautiful Colorado. And so I'm a rheumatologist, and the way I describe rheumatology is Dr. House without the attitude. I think we have an attitude too.
I love Dr. House. So that's a good one. And by the way, I love your accent. Love it. Now, inquiring minds want to know, why do you do what you do? Is there a story behind it?
Yeah, so I love it. So, and I had the opportunity to change the specialty when I came and did it again here. And there's no way I could live without doing rheumatology. So, I mean, there's such a cool feeling in getting our patients better, and I find that in rheumatology, like patients come with a lot of inflammation, a lot of pain, and I really get a lot of pleasure making my patients better, and we have incredible treatments nowadays. Because when I started more than 20 years ago now, we were starting to discover biologic agents, such as Humira and Ambred. I think they were not even on the market yet, but there was like the grandpa of all of them. And I remember seeing patients like really their lives were changed thanks to the treatments. They were crippled, couldn't move, and suddenly they were having babies left and right, which was, sort of like unbelievable for them. And so that is why I do this, because I think that it's an incredible specialty that keeps moving forward, where we keep learning stuff and with beautiful medication. So between the lifestyle and medication, I just feel like that there's this perfect combo that we can offer to our patients. Awesome. That is why.
Awesome. I love what you do, Doc. Yeah. I love what you do, Doc. And I'll be honest with you, I agree with you. Seeing them, their quality of life improved before your eyes is amazing. So this is good. Now, our first question for those who are watching, what is gout, Doc? What is gout?
Yeah, so gout is the endpoint that causes pain, like severe pain of your joint. And that is due to the inability of your body to get rid of the uric acid. So, in a nutshell, you make too much uric acid or you're not able to get rid of the uric acid. It crystallizes in your body, and bam, when it comes to your joint, you develop gout. and it's the worst pain you can have. Like, it's actually considered one of the worst pain you could ever have. When we learn how what gout is in medical school, we learn that even the touch of a sheet can be painful in our
Okay.
patients.
Yes.
They want to cut their limb off when they have gout, and I'm
Wow.
sure your patients can relate to that. It can be extremely, extremely painful.
Awesome, awesome. Well, not awesome that it's painful, but thank you for that information. Uric acid is the issue, and it can be very, very painful. Now, our topic is on how we can reduce flares. So, why would you say people have flares? Like, why does it happen sometimes and not other times? Like, what causes that
Yeah.
fluctuation?
Well, that's a very good question, and definitely a question that our patients want to know, because then you can act upon this, right? So,
Right.
if you take, right, so we just said that the issue with gout is an issue with the uric acid. Either you have too much that's coming in, either you're not able to get rid of it. And so if it's too much, and I'm going to give this story that's so common in France, right? So French people love food. It's our religion. And when it comes to Christmas and New Year's Eve, we love food even more. And one of the delicacy in France is seafood. And seafood is very, very rich in purine. And purine, when it breaks down, when your body, which is doing its thing, breaks down the purine, it actually leads to a lot of uric acid. And so with someone, like if someone has gout, if someone has an issue with getting rid of the uric acid, they they come in the hospital with horrible pain because of the Christmas or the New Year's Eve indulgence, where they've eaten a ton of meat and a ton of seafood, and bam, so either it's because you've indulged in too much good food. It's not necessarily good for your health, but for your palate. And so you can have, like, because you've over taken high purine
Yeah.
intake, you're gonna have more risk of flare. Or it's because suddenly, for several reasons, and we can go over them, you have more of a difficulty getting rid of the uric acid. And so, for example, if you suddenly develop kidney disease, you have more risk of having a flare.
Mm,
Another one that we see that's super common is new medication. And the number one medication that's going to lead to flare is a diuretic. So it's, for example, the case of a patient that developed heart failure, or has hypertension, and the cardiologist, well-meaning, puts the patient on a diuretic, and that will lead to a flare. So really, it's any sort of changes in the uric acid, and
mm,
uh, it's actually quite interesting. It's really any change, meaning that sometimes by decreasing the uric acid, you can actually develop flare. We can go into this because I think that that's super important for your patients to know. But when we start treating gout, if we see that the uric acid is very high, we try to decrease the uric acid.
right.
And by decreasing the uric acid, we move the uric acid in the body, and the body does not like it. So you can actually develop a flare. So it sounds counterintuitive. You're like, wait,
Right.
hold on, I'm decreasing my uric acid. They're like, yes, but your body is very finicky. We need to adjust it properly
Right.
and very smoothly. And so those are like the main common reason to have a flare.
Mm,
Um, Intake, right?
right.
Or issues with getting rid of the uric acid.
Awesome. Awesome. And you already touched on the next question. How do I reduce flare? So, of course, these are medical suggestions. We do advise that you seek your own doctor, rheumatologist to get your own personalized care. But what are some things a patient can do to reduce flares? You touched on it, but I want you to go in more detail. Like, what can I do aside from seeing you, getting medications, having those numbers? Like, what can I do to reduce those flares?
Well, first of all, see us. It's such a pleasure to see patients get better, right?
Yes,
Even if it's
of
just
course.
for
See
that.
us. Yeah.
I love seeing patients with gout, because it's one of the best feeling in the world as a physician. You make them feel better. So see us, right? But no, short of that. Well, so if you understand how it works, you're like, number one, there's the diet, right? So I hate that word diet because I'm like, you're going to restrict me. No, no, no. I'm not restricting you. We're making choices so that you don't have to come to see me like in an emergency, right? And the choices are, in fact, quite simple, right? If you think about it. So what is going to create uric acid? And so when you understand that the uric acid is the endpoint of purines, so really it's protein. You're like breaking down protein, and that's going to cause uric acid, right? So once you understand that, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to make choices that are decreasing high protein intake. And what has high protein intake? It's usually red meat and seafood. And it's actually quite interesting to think of it, because sometimes you're like trying to push this for people who are very high. Like they do a lot of exercise and all this. You're trying to get protein, but the truth is that from a health standpoint, from our health standpoint, animal protein are not great. And we are like, there's more and more studies that are showing this. And if you have gout, it's really by decreasing that you have the, it's sort of like where you have the most chance of getting less gout flare is by decreasing the animal protein intake. So that's number one, animal protein intake. The second one is if you like try to avoid alcohol and mostly the beer. That's really mostly the beer. Like if you can try to avoid completely beer, you'll have less chance of gout. So it's hard. Like you have to find your right balance, but you can actually, once you're like, okay, what did I eat yesterday? Oh, this. What did I eat? Yesterday. Oh, what did I drink yesterday? Oh, this. And so that gives you a pretty good idea of, what in terms of the nutrition, what can I do? So that's like, nutrition. We think that like there are some studies that shows that cherries, the cute
the fruit, yes.
fruits, yeah. I always make sure with my accent that I pronounce it properly. But so cherries, like a handful of cherries can actually prevent, we think it can prevent gout. There's some studies that are showing that. So that's cool, right? Like, so decreasing animal product, increasing cherries. So that's something that's definitely doable. And then talking with your physician when there is a new treatment that they want to start, asking them, hey, will that be something that could potentially trigger a gout flare? Because we can actually prevent the gout flare, right? So for example, in my word, if I'm going to start a patient on allopurinol, which decreases the uric acid, I know that putting my patients on allopurinol may lead to flares. So I will start them also on a medication that stops the pain. And we can go into the treatment of this, because I think that that's actually quite important to realize that we're trying to decrease the uric acid, but any movement in the uric acid can cause flare. And so you're trying to decrease the uric acid by making sure that and at the same time, making sure that you don't have a flare. So decreasing the uric acid so that in the long term, you don't develop a flare. So that's really important. But at the same time, doing this, you may cause a flare. So you're going to actually give something for those flares in prevention. So you're going to use colchicine, you're going to use anti-inflammatory, and then your patients are okay. And you tell them, hey, you may have a flare, just call me, or like, here is, double the dose of colchicine if this happens, right? So those are like the main one. Sometimes asking your cardiologist, is there any other medication than a diuretic? Usually they have options. Sometimes there's no other options, because that's a very good treatment for heart failure. And so in those cases, if you have heart failure, we would not recommend another treatment. And so we would just work on the gout by treating the gout, possibly giving colchicine or an NSAID if you can, an anti-inflammatory. And then the last thing was what was that? I was trying to think if there was another one, and it just it's a medication as well. Yeah, treating with medications and making sure that we can take care of the gout.
All right.
So those would be the big ones. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to ask you about vitamin C. There's talks about vitamin C rich foods. I don't know if that's where the cherry's coming. Vitamin C rich foods are the ones that can help reduce flares of gout. But I love the fact that fruits are an option. Cherries are
Yeah.
an option to help actually reduce the risk of flares.
And yes, you're correct. So vitamin C, there are some studies, they are not big studies, but there are some studies that are showing that if you take vitamin C, you can prevent flares. And certainly I'm with you, actually. I think that vitamin C can be found in fruits and veggies. And so I'm more of hey, if you can do something naturally, just do it instead of a medication. We give our patients enough medication. So when you can try to avoid the medication and just go in the nutrition, it's actually, I just find it better. So yeah, vitamin C, any sort of fruit in general is going to be good. I mean, honestly, when you look at your plate, and if your plate has a ton of veggies and fruits, I mean, it's a win, because when you're eating the veggies and the fruits, you're eating less of the processed food and less of the, the non-plant based, the meat products. So yeah, I'm with you on this. I think you and I have a very similar approach, and it's not because of the taste. Like, again, I'm French. I love food, but when it comes to, and I'm growing such a fun taste of fruits and vegetables and discovering. Yeah, I keep discovering. Every year I discover a new veggie, so that's exciting. And discovering this, and you're just realizing, and you're like, oh, my life is so much better. I feel so much better. I don't have the pain. So yeah, vitamin C definitely. So fruits and veggies, and fruits definitely, and definitely vitamin C is a one. And it just occurred to me, if you have hypertension, there is a medication that actually can prevent the gout flare as well. It's losartan. So telling your cardiologist or your primary care physician, like you, that I have gout, you can actually choose the proper blood pressure medication.
That is gold. Thank you so much, Doc. I appreciate that. Now, someone's asking, all right, Doc, we got all the information. I know about uric acid. I know to reduce flares. I know to see my doctor and make sure my medications work more for me, not against me. Can it go away? Like, is there a thing like gout going away? What would you say to that, Doc?
Yes. Yes, it can go away. That is one of the reasons I became a rheumatologist. Yes. Yes, that's the beauty. I have this, it's funny. I have this theory that if our body can create a disease, our body can get rid of the disease. All right. I go from that principle, and I go from the principle that I, as a physician and a rheumatologist, my goal is to help your body, right? And I'm either with education, like we're doing now, either with a little bit of help with our medication. But yeah, I think it can, I'm sure it can go away. So can it go away on its own? Well, if you take a diet, and if you make sure that if you're doing the choices in nutrition, I have some patients that are fully controlled, have no more gout flares with just, nutrition choices. Okay. So that's number one. Very often we have to add some medications. Why? For me, it's like, think about it. Like, most of our patients, they don't come to the rheumatologist or the specialist if they have their first gout flare. Most of the time, what happens is that they've already tried the nutrition, and that is not enough. So they come to the rheumatologist. That said, I've seen patients with just nutrition get completely, like, perfect control of their gout, like no more gout flare, no need for medication whatsoever. All right. Second is with medications. It can go away with medication. It does take time, because the uric acid builds up in our system. It's not something that comes from, one day to the other. The gout flare does. Like, one day you're fine, the next day you're in horrible pain. that's a gout flare. But what we're treating as physician, we're treating the uric acid, which is, the root cause. The root cause is that you have buildup of the uric acid, either because you're taking too much from outside, either because you're not getting rid of it. And so we work like this. We decrease the uric acid with medications, and we have multiple medications nowadays. When I started, we had one, and now we have, 4, 5 medications. Some are biologic, cost a lot of money, taken with help with the insurance and help with the medication, like the pharmaceutical company, it doesn't have to cost that much, but some of them cost quite a bit of money when you look at the price tag. And it works really, really well. But the good news is that most of our patients, with the nutrition choices and with just allopurinol, which is a very old medication, that can go away, really. Gout can go away. So there's a ton of hope.
Yes, it can go. I love how you said it. Yes. Now I have someone who has a question here. Is gout hereditary?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. So there are definitely some genetic factors. And so we see some families that have gout, and it's really like it's son to father to son, and so we see that. So yes, there's definitely an inherited hereditary component to gout. So if you have a family member that has gout, like your dad has gout or your granddad has gout, definitely it's you're more at risk. However, if you start looking at how your father or grandfather eats, you may actually or drinks, you may realize that there are things that you can do so that you don't have to have gout as well, right? So it's sort of more and more we're looking at this. We call that epigenetics, right? So you have the genetics. So it's sort of I'm trying to find, like, it's sort of the boat, like to be taken on a storm and sink, you have to be underwater, and then there has to be a storm, right? So you're underwater because you have a genetic component, but really to have the storm, you have to to have a problem with the water, you have to have a storm. And so the storm is, either medications that we use for other issues, or a choice in nutrition that are not as great. But definitely there's a genetic component, at least to some of the patients. And the younger you are with gout, the more likely it is that it's genetic. Sorry. Did I lose you? Oh, you're back. Okay. It's back. It's so strange. My internet connection seems to be working here, but yeah.
No, mine is struggling a little bit.
Oh, got it.
All right, so they can still hear you. I hope you kept talking.
Yeah, a little bit.
Good. So we don't have to live out our genetic tendencies. We can change that by our lifestyle. So that was key, and I hope people keyed into that, because sometimes it's discouraging to know there's a family history of this and that. So I thought that was awesome. But I would like people to have a chance. They're like, I love this doc. I love her accent. I love the passion with which she teaches about gout and other inflammatory conditions. Where can people connect with you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, first of all. And I love your show. I mean, I'm getting to learn so much of how to engage with our patients, and your patients are so lucky to have you. So thank you. Thank you for being a voice. It's wonderful. Well, so I'm in Denver. I'm seeing patients at National Jewish Health. And I'm about to leave my institution to open my own micro practice, very little practice. And so right now I have a podcast, and I have some tips. You can come to my website. So it's called UnabridgedMD.com. You can look at my podcast, UnabridgedMD, as well as my Instagram and Twitter. And it would be a pleasure to have you listen to some of my stories and some, patient stories and so on. It's like holistic rheumatology care. And and I would love to have, more people interested in the podcast and look at the website and add your name on the contact form. So when we have important announcements and things to share, we can share that.
Awesome. And we've posted the link to all of that right here in the comment section for people to go and connect with. I would recommend sign up to be on her waiting list or newsletter, so that way you get useful information on tips that can help improve your quality of life. Thank you again so much for coming. I appreciate you for hanging through. So thank you.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, you too. And on that note, we're done. Please share with those who will find this useful. And if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome, a passionate, a thorough family physician that helps improve your quality and quantity of life, I am she. Have a good one, guys. Bye.